As described in the previous video, once our plan is ready, we can now move forward to the second P, which is to prepare. The presentation can be conveniently divided into two parts. The first part being preparing the material in forms of notes or files. The second is where you prepare the actual slides. So, without further ado, let's start. The first part is preparing the material. Up to now, we know that a presentation is more about a conversation between a conscious presenter and its audience. The most effective way to do this is through a story. Every great story has a good beginning or introduction, the middle or storyline, and the end or climax. To do this, we have a fabulous storytelling structure, the hero's journey. It was coined by Joseph Campbell and it consists of 12 phases. Most famous stories like James Bond and Harry Potter are based on it. For simplification, we have divided these 12 stages into 9 stages for presentation. Let's start. The first stage is to set the screen. Give them background. Tell them where are they now. Here you give the outline of your presentation. The next step is to introduce the characters. Tell them the main components, definitions, facts and elements that will build up your slides. Here is the time where you introduce your hero of the story, the topic around which your presentation revolves. Now your hero starts your journey. Begin this journey with a history of the characters, some interesting points that will keep the presentation together. Here you may explain where the work you are doing actually started. Next, the hero encounters the problem or obstacle. Maybe you tell them an interesting problem related to your work. If presenting research paper, what is the problem you are posing? Or if in lecture, tell the problem they will learn to solve. Now you have posted the problem. Next is of course finding the solution. In a story, hero always solves the problem. He fights and comes out as a winner. So here you propose a solution to the problem. You may tell the solution directly or you can actually ask the audiences to give their opinions about the solution. Once the problem is resolved and dealt with, now you come to resolve the story by telling them how you got the solution or by telling them the other important parts of your story. Let them know the outcomes of the solution. Finally, like every story has a moral attached, you should now tell the audience about the gist of your work or solutions and outcomes. What else can be done? You basically wind up with the work by emphasizing on the main talk. Since we started with the idea of a presentation being a conversation, you now post a question. You may take their opinion about the other problems that can be solved. Finally, you repeat the main point. Since the whole presentation was about this one main point or idea, you have to repeat it in the end so that it is clear to your audience. While keeping the story in mind, you can now easily divide your presentation into these stages. You may also leave a few stages depending on the time, but remember, the problem should still be looked at as the story. You must have heard the phrase, first impression is the last impression. The first impression of a story or presentation is made by its title. It is a thread which connects your presentation to audience's imagination. There are 4 types of presentation titles from which you can choose. The question. Ask a question as a title. This will encourage the audience to think through. Example, if you want to talk about the jobs or careers, you may keep the title as What a Job Looks Like in 2021. The next type of title is The Promise. A scientific topic on artificial intelligence can be given a title as Solving Some Basic Problems on the Artificial Intelligence. This type of title promises you a solution in the future. Third, your title could be The Transformation, which hints at a future outcome or a possible change. For example, the vision of jobs in 2020 is a title for jobs in 2020. Finally, you may opt for The Reveal. As a presentation title, this is a cryptic title that creates suspense for the audience members. Like the title of this presentation, The Science Behind the Art of Presenting. Moving forward, we have the second part of preparing, which is preparing the slides. It was estimated that more than 700 million people use PowerPoints globally. PowerPoint is almost 95% share of all the presentation softwares that is available. But remember, PowerPoint is not the only one. There are many other possible softwares for presentation which are actually better than the PowerPoint. Let's discuss a few. The first one is Google Slides. It is an option of PowerPoint from Google. Next one is a latex beamer. It is used by mathematicians and computer scientists. The third one is Prezi. We will be covering some of these slides in the upcoming video. Now is the time where we learn some of the new tricks and tips for a better presentation. Let's get started. The flash. Imagine you are driving down the road and a hoarding flashes past you. You don't have the time to stop and read it, but in a flash you get it. That's exactly what your slides should be designed to do. If you are driving and you can't get the message that quickly, the advertiser has wasted their money. And if your slides don't do the same, you are wasting your audience's time. Remember though, the slides doesn't give everything away. Otherwise, there is no need for you. The template. Always start with a slide in a way an artist would begin to paint on canvas. The use of templates may seem unimportant, but it is important. Ask yourself, does that grey-orange wave on left add any meaning? Doesn't too many crooks spoil the dish? If you use too many colors in templates, you are like novice with distractions. It may be pleasant, but it won't connect you to your audience. Can you see and read what is written over here? No, of course not. It is really important to keep your text short and easy to read. It should be available in a flash. Make sure it's large enough so that people at the back of the room can actually read it. The font. Use no more than 2 fonts and take it easy on colors. Use 3 complementary colors at most, supported by a neutral shade like white or grey. If you are using photos or images, they should also come from the same family of colors. Positioning. Which picture do you see at first? The middle one, right? If you have several images on a slide and one is larger than the other, your audience will assume that the larger one is more important, and that's where they will focus. Consider sizes, positioning, and arrangement carefully as a good designer would. If you really have a good reason to use them, make sure they appear one at a time. Also, keep text the minimal. The correct pause. Giving pauses at the right time makes the audience realize the punctuations and the understanding is much better. The white space. In the same way, many presenters are uncomfortable with silence and are reluctant to build pauses into their presentations. Many are equally uncomfortable with spaces on their slides and looks to filling it. A good amount of space sharpens the audience's focus by drawing them into the elements you want them to focus on. Allow your audience to very quickly realize what it is you want them to know by making that elements highly visible. So, if for example you have an image and a really important number, make the number big and bold and the image slightly smaller. Use one idea per slide. Less is more, and that is it. Keep it simple and straight. Since presentation is more of a conversation, one should try and speak in the language keeping in mind its audience. Try to keep it simple, easy, and understandable. Don't try to use too many fancy words. Thank you so much for your attention.